Imagine a world where the invisible force that anchors oceans, cities, and human hearts to the planet simply switches off, not for an hour, not for a minute, but for just 10 terrifying seconds, and in that tiny slice of time, the laws of reality bend so violently that civilization itself is briefly unstitched from the earth. Gravity is not just what keeps us from floating away, it is the silent architect of every structure, every orbit, every breath, and when it disappears, even briefly, the planet becomes a stage for chaos written in the language of physics. In the very first instant, everything not bolted to the planet begins to drift upward, but not gently, not like balloons at a birthday party, rather like debris caught in an explosion, because Earth is spinning at over 1,000 miles per hour, and without gravity holding us down, the ground races east while people, cars, animals, and entire buildings momentarily lag behind, creating sideways motion that turns simple floating into violent airborne collisions. Inside homes, furniture slams into ceilings, water bursts from pipes and containers, and glass shatters as objects become missiles with no respect for walls or human bodies, while in hospitals, patients and doctors are suddenly lifted from beds and operating tables, turning life-saving machines into hazards, and in schools and offices, panic explodes as gravity's sudden betrayal transforms familiar rooms into spinning cages of flying metal and flesh. Outside, the destruction escalates instantly as vehicles lose contact with roads, planes drop from controlled flight into unpredictable trajectories, and ships on the ocean are hurled upward as massive waves collapse into disordered walls of water, while skyscrapers, designed to withstand earthquakes and storms, are wrenched from their foundations as structural forces reverse in ways no engineer ever prepared for. In the skies, satellites and space stations face their own nightmare, because gravity is what keeps them locked in orbit, and when it vanishes, their carefully balanced paths shatter, sending them drifting into unstable routes that could lead to violent re-entry or collisions, turning the space above Earth into a deadly storm of metal moving at unimaginable speeds. But the planet itself would also suffer deeply, because Earth's atmosphere is held in place by gravity, and even 10 seconds of release would allow massive portions of air to surge upward, thinning the protective blanket that shields life from radiation and extreme temperatures, while the sudden redistribution of air pressure would trigger hurricane-level winds ripping across continents the moment gravity snaps back. When gravity returns, it does not do so gently, and everything that was lifted now falls back with catastrophic force, creating impacts that mimic asteroid strikes on a smaller scale, as cars slam into streets, buildings collapse under their own displaced mass, and people are crushed by the brutal reunion between matter and the ground that once supported it. The human body, fragile and finely balanced, would endure trauma far beyond broken bones, as internal organs shift violently, blood pressure fluctuates wildly, and the brain is subjected to rapid changes in orientation that cause massive neurological damage, meaning that even survivors of the initial chaos could face lifelong disabilities or sudden death from injuries no battlefield could ever prepare for. Technology, the backbone of modern civilization, would be crippled in seconds, as power grids collapse from broken towers and tangled cables, data centers lose cooling systems, nuclear facilities face emergency shutdowns, and communication networks fragment, plunging the world into a digital blackout that could take months or even years to fully repair. Economies would stagger under the weight of simultaneous infrastructure failure, mass casualties, and global supply chain collapse, as ports, factories, and transportation hubs lie in ruins, insurance systems buckle under losses beyond calculation, and governments struggle to maintain order while populations face shortages of food, medicine, and clean water. Socially and psychologically, the event would leave scars far deeper than physical destruction, because humanity would be forced to confront the terrifying realization that even the most fundamental laws of nature can fail without warning, shattering the illusion of control that modern society depends on for stability and trust in the future. Religions, philosophies, and political systems would all be shaken as people search for meaning in an event that defies explanation, while conspiracy theories, fear-driven movements, and radical ideologies surge through populations desperate for certainty in a universe that has suddenly proven itself unpredictable and merciless. From an AI prediction standpoint, such an anomaly would trigger emergency responses from global artificial intelligence systems designed to detect planetary-scale threats, forcing automated decision-making on evacuation strategies, energy stabilization, and resource distribution, raising profound ethical questions about how much authority machines should hold when human. Scientific institutions would devote decades to studying how such a failure of gravity could even occur, rewriting textbooks and redefining cosmology, while governments invest massively in planetary defense technologies, underground cities, and artificial gravity systems, fundamentally reshaping how humanity prepares for existential risks beyond war, climate, or disease. In the end, 10 seconds without gravity would not just be a disaster, it would be a permanent turning point in human history, a reminder that civilization exists at the mercy of forces far older and stronger than any empire, algorithm, or invention, and that survival in the age of advanced intelligence may ultimately depend not on controlling nature, but on learning how to live with the terrifying truth that even the universe itself can, for a moment, let go. In the aftermath, humanity would be forced to redesign cities with survival, not beauty, as the highest priority, embedding shock-absorbing foundations, flexible structures, and autonomous emergency systems into every layer of urban life, while homes evolve into protective shells capable of sealing, stabilizing, and sustaining families during sudden planetary-scale disturbances. Education would change forever, shifting from memorizing facts to training minds for crisis adaptation, teaching children not only science and technology but psychological resilience, emergency coordination, and ethical decision-making, because the next generation would grow up knowing that reality itself can fracture without warning. Space exploration would accelerate with desperate urgency, not for curiosity, but for survival, as humanity seeks off-world colonies where artificial gravity and controlled environments could protect life from planetary anomalies, turning Mars, orbital habitats, and deep space stations into potential lifeboats for civilization. Artificial intelligence would no longer be a tool of convenience, but a permanent planetary guardian, monitoring gravitational fields, atmospheric stability, and tectonic movements in real time, predicting anomalies before humans could ever sense them, while simultaneously managing emergency responses at speeds no human bureaucracy could match. Yet with this power comes fear, because the same systems designed to protect could also decide who receives aid first, which cities are prioritized, and which regions are sacrificed to save the majority, forcing humanity into moral dilemmas where survival calculations collide with the value of individual lives. Art, literature, and culture would reflect a darker, deeper understanding of existence, moving away from fantasies of endless progress and towards stories of fragility, cooperation, and cosmic humility, as people seek meaning not in dominance over nature, but in unity against forces no single nation or species can command. And even decades later, when cities are rebuilt and skies appear calm, every generation would live with the quiet knowledge that gravity once disappeared, that the ground once failed, and that survival itself is not guaranteed by technology or intelligence, but by the fragile, fleeting balance of a